Hello, welcome back to L Talks. Um, I'm back. So this week a bit of a delay on the release because I went on holidays. Well, I took days off. I didn't go anywhere particular exciting. Just travelled around Ireland. You know, and so I'm back. So we get into it on the agenda. So if you checked out my Instagram at Al Talks Podcast, you probably have seen a video that I put up just shooting kind of a small short clip just outside the Halfpenny Bridge Inn. Just to show people where I perform stand up. Obviously, I couldn't go inside because it's closed currently. Probably will be closed for I'd say another few months. Things are opening up rapidly here, so I'd say maybe 2 3 more months. Most likely we'll be back in doing comedy. So once that happens, obviously I will inform you on how the sets go and how they'll be structured. I presume it'll just be kind of maybe smaller crowds. But like I was saying before, the Halfpenny Bridge Inn isn't an overly massive venue. Just you could maybe fit 20 people there. But if they introduce social distancing, I don't know, maybe half that capacity. But even on that, that's even if they did it, well, they can't really do it outside. But I'm not opposed to any of that. I mentioned before on different podcast episodes about listening to Iliza Schlesinger, who's a comic in the US, and excuse me, and she was on Bert Kreischer's podcast, the Bertcast, and they were talking about how was doing theatres. He's going on the world tour at the moment. It's called he's on the Bertie Boy Relapse tour, and he was talking about how he had nerves one time before he was performing in theatre, and he was sitting there, and he was like, look, and he was kind of having a chat with himself. He's like, the basis of it was he was, I shouldn't be nervous because he got him there. It wasn't his managers, it wasn't his agent, it wasn't his kids or his wife. It was himself. It was himself who did it, and he really got me thinking about when I decided I was going to do the first open mic. Like the date was it was 22nd of August 2019. It was I won't say big decision. I mean, but certainly a big commitment, I suppose. We'll see how it works out in the future. Obviously, I'm gonna just keep going with it, and anyway, had to deal with some annoying pop-ups, and he was like, it was himself who got him there. Because he wrote the materials, he went to all the shows, he worked all the way up to doing theaters, and another thing Iliza mentioned, she was saying that when she started out in comedy, that obviously there was not every place has open mics, but what she used to do is she used to start her own rooms. What that means is basically she would go to, say, a place where they hosted comedy, be it a pizzeria or a coffee shop, because a lot of them do that just on like an off night. And she would say, what's your quietest night? Say like a Tuesday. And I said, fine, do you mind if I do an open mic on that night? And so that's what she used to do. She'd go and start all these rooms up on her own, and then she gained all this following. Eventually, she started doing bigger shows, bigger venues, theaters, and all that. She's going on tour, having and all the success that she's achieved so far. But actually, the open mic that I went to in my local town, my friend who runs that, that's how he started off as well. The same thing. He just asked. Hold on. Oh, hello, I'm back. Sorry about that. Forgot to pause that. Anyway, so just having weird pop-ups annoying me. Programs that I don't even use anymore. But anyway, so yeah, that's the beginnings. Well, that was Eliza's beginnings. That's how she got. Because what happened was, it still happens now, but when you start now, not many people know you. It's kind of, in the US anyway. In LA, they find it difficult to get into spots if essentially back in the day, they would say, you need a TV credit or some sort of big credit in order for, the various clubs to take you in, let you perform. So, that's what they all had to go through. And yeah, I've mentioned a couple of times, start watching George Lopez's podcast. And he was talking about how one time Barack Obama reached out to him to help him win, to help gather Latino votes. And George Lopez said, "But why me?" And he said, for the Latino world, George Lopez, he said, you have such massive presence in the Latino world. A lot of Latinos would look up to him, and George, he was shocked by this, but he went ahead when he said a lot of people, booed him when he was at various rallies with Barack Obama and all different places, and he said a lot of the boos came from the Mexicans themselves. They're saying, you're a sellout and everything else. And so there's all, but for him it was, he did it, and he said he was at the inauguration. Barack Obama invited him up there, and he said for him it was one of the, definitely one of the biggest things he had ever achieved in life. And it was also such a massive historic moment, and he was very happy to be part of it. But that'll be all for this week's episode. I will have another one out next week. I think same time Tuesday. There won't be any deviance from the schedule from now on, I don't think. Or there might be, I don't know, I'm not bound. I try and do the Tuesday upload, but once again, there's no management here, it's just myself. So Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you all next week.